Alrighty then. What up, what up, what up? It's your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ. You see the face, you know the case. And listen, I'm here with my boy Colin. We're about to break down free agency aftermath, man, because the fantasy streets are buzzing, Colin. Listen, I don't know where you want to start, but the latest news, man. What are the Dolphins doing? Jalen Waddle, he's on his way to Denver. I mean, whoo, my guy. Listen, I think the immediate reaction that I'd had, I don't want to speak for you. I kind of was just like, this is great news for Bo Nix. Like, everybody was talking about that we might have seen his ceiling. I think he might have got that boost. I think the ceiling is just raised for him, Colin. What you thinking?
Yeah, we definitely start with Denver. How much more help does he really need, though? I do feel like they've had some good playmakers, but you could argue that Jalen Waddle is the best. I mean, I would argue that he's the most explosive playmaker that the Broncos have had, heading into Bo Nix's third season. Shout out to Aqib Talib, by the way, former cornerback.
I like how you had that insider information.
Dude, he called this. Listen, everyone's so concerned about A.J. Brown from, coming to take him from my Eagles, but let's not forget Jalen Waddle was floated out there at the trade deadline back in October. So it's not shocking that he's gone. I think it shocks a little bit of people, though, that he's in Denver because, you start naming the guys that maybe helped you last fantasy football season. Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin at times, Pat Bryant. I know he was your boy early. You were shouting him out.
I gotta pour one out for him, man, because it's going to take some time before we see him to develop now and to be a full-time starter. And I felt like that at times that was happening for him, but concussions, your availability is your best ability. So getting a Jalen Waddle just makes sense.
Yeah, but to keep it on a fantasy mindset here, perspective, it kind of makes things a little messy, though. Maybe Bo Nix is the focal point that you want for fantasy football next year.
Yes.
Because I don't think he's really talked about as like, a guy that could finish inside the top 5. Well, maybe he can, because we know Bo Nix likes to run. We know they wanted the emphasis. They talked about Travis Achan, by the way, Travis Achan, Kenneth Walker, Kenneth Walker, but it looks like they're running it back with the running backs, J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. So that's good news for Bo Nix's rushing upside. But now he's got all these weapons around him. We'll see if they all stick around. But, I don't know if I want to invest in any one particular player, because I feel like, as you're rooting for Jalen Waddle to score you points, there goes Cortland Sutton in the end zone. Marvin Mims is, housing, a 60-yard screen pass or something like that. It does feel like something's got to give here. Someone's got to go. There are teams that need wide receivers. Ironically, the Miami Dolphins need wide receivers. But
I mean, we could spin it to that side. We can spin it to that side real quick, because there's not much that needs to be said about the Miami Dolphins from a fantasy aspect. Like, I kind of don't want anything. Like, I don't want anything from that team. And when we look at Achan, I mean, how cool would it be that he does a bit where he goes, yeah, it's actually Devon Etienne. Like, how cool would that be? He plays into the bit. But I think even looking at him, when we start fast forwarding to summertime, Colin, we got to start thinking about where does he go in drafts, right? How do we look at him? I know everybody believes in the philosophy that volume is king. Yes, but there's another sentence that follows behind that. How valuable are these touches going to be? Because I don't know about you, Colin. I feel bad for Malik Willis on a 1-year prove-it deal, and then it's how is he going to prove it with Tutu Atwell with his number 1 wide receiver at this point right now?
I don't feel too bad for Malik Willis, because he got the bag. He got about $40-some million guaranteed to succeed or fail. But yeah, I mean, here he goes taking a shot with the Miami Dolphins. If you remember, he was kind of tied at the combine. There were rumors that he was going to be an Arizona Cardinal. Yeah. I don't know what happened there, but Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson is a lot better than Tutu Atwell, me catching passes down in Miami. It's definitely painful to see. Their offensive playmakers are about as plentiful as the background I have behind me. There's no one there. It's Devon Achan. And honestly, I'm not really high on him as much anymore. I was. And as the offense has progressed, the value just keeps dipping. I mean, I didn't think Tua was going to stick around anyway, but when you look at Mike McDaniel in that offense, he loved to use Devon Achane. Obviously, Mike McDaniel has a run game coordinator background with the 49ers. We saw what he did for Raheem Mostert a couple years ago. But he wanted to get the ball out of Tua's hands quickly into the playmaker's hands. That was huge PPR upside for Devon Achane. But now you have the complete opposite. We don't know what Malik Willis is going to look like on a 17-game sample size here down in Miami, but we do know he likes to run, and that could hurt Devon Achane just in general, but especially in the red zone. I don't know if he's the first round lock that we thought maybe he was going to be after last season.
Exactly. That's where the conversation needs to start. I feel like he could end up creeping into that early second round, where guys like probably like a Saquon Barkley now that's going to drop down. I think James Cook personally is a first round lock at that 112 spot or on that turn. I think looking at Devon Achane, you got to look at some of the moves that they made this offseason and some of the moves that they lost. Like they lost 4 to 5 offensive linemen. I mean, a couple released, a couple signed elsewhere. That old line is going to look different as well. Not saying that Devon Achane is going to completely be useless in fantasy. It's just I don't know where his ADP is going to be able to feel comfortable to pay that price, because, again, we got plenty of running backs that I feel more comfortable taking in that early second round or even in the second round period of where he'll be. Like, we still got guys like Kyron Williams in there. Where's Jeremiah Love go, right? Like, Ashton Genty falling to the second round. Like, these are names that I feel a little bit more comfortable looking at a Devon Achane, Colin. So, like, it's going to be a very interesting situation to see where people push him up in ADP. But again, you're buyer beware, because it's not looking good right now. But looking at the draft now, like, how do you think this impacts? Like, now Waddle's out of the way, right? You're left with Jalen Tolbert. You're left with Malik Washington. You're left with Tutu Atwell. It kind of postures and makes it kind of obvious that they're going wide receiver in the draft. They got the 11th pick and the 30th pick.
Yeah, let's just hope our favorite wide receivers of this class don't end up in Miami. Although, again, back to the volume thing, maybe they're drawing 120 targets or more in their first season from Malik Willis, because you have to figure this is a team that's probably going to play from behind, right? Their defense isn't anything special either. This is a complete rebuild. Let's just call it what it is.
They added nothing on defense, by the way.
Absolutely nothing.
Not a thing.
Absolutely nothing. I'm trying to pull it up here, but I saw yesterday, I guess I didn't realize it because we know it's a rebuild, right? And we know they have their first round pick. They got pick 30. I was looking at their total picks for this year. They have 11 picks. 11, and 7 of them are in the top 100. They have pick 11, pick 30, 43, 75, 87, 90, and 94. I'm not saying the Dolphins are going to turn around quickly. I posted a little bit of a cheeky tweet yesterday comparing them to the Seahawks last year. I didn't say they were going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that, but
come on, Colin.
This time last year, the Seahawks traded away Geno, traded away DK, cut Tyler Lockett, had all these picks, 5 of them in the top 100. Now you look at the Dolphins, cut Tua, cut Tyreek, traded away Waddle, have these 7 picks. It can turn around quickly. I'm not saying it's happening in 2026, but I at least respect a new GM coming in from, a very successful organization like the Green Bay Packers and saying, here's my plan. Give me time. Just give me time.
Give me
the
time.
Malik Willis signing's a little confusing, but low risk, high reward. If he shows you something in year 1, maybe he's your guy long term. And I don't think you can complete a rebuild without a quarterback in place. Plenty of franchises know that. The Seahawks know that. They got Sam Darnold. But I do think there is a plan in place. I can kind of see the vision. It's just going to be really tough in a division with the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots that have Josh Allen, Drake May. And, the Jets are kind of in the same position as the Dolphins. They have a lot of picks too. And they've got 3 first-round picks next year. So if Miami wants a specific quarterback from next year's class, they better hope they tank a little bit better than the Jets do.
They made a lot of moves, the Jets that I'm speaking about. They made a lot of moves on defense. So it looks like they're trying to beef up that defense, and getting Geno, in a way, it kind of brings stability to the position, right? Like, I don't want to say Geno that we're going to write him off again, but I think Geno is that mid-tier quarterback, and it kind of an upgrade from what we've seen wearing that Jets jersey, right? And that includes Aaron Rodgers, because I got to be honest. Like, everybody points to that season with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Like, Aaron Rodgers himself kind of wasn't that great. Like, we didn't get a lot of the deep shots. We didn't get, more of like the offense putting themselves in scoring opportunities. It was more so like, all right, yeah, this is kind of mid. So hopefully with Geno coming in, we can get a Garrett Wilson elevated. Like, I think he gets cheaper in drafts each year that we've seen him in the last couple of seasons going through this carousel of quarterbacks. But I think right now I could see myself taking Garrett Wilson off the board as my wide receiver too, with that upside that he'll have some of those spike weeks. He'll have the weeks, obviously, that are going to be kind of low. But again, this is just what comes with it. We could just really paint that picture that volume will follow him. We can expect him to be, in the end zone more often than not now with Geno Smith, because I think at least with Geno, he could be a little bit more efficient when they get into that, striking distance.
Yeah, I saw someone post online, and man, there are just so many funny people out there, just one-liners, this and that. But Geno Smith is the best quarterback that the Jets have had since Geno Smith.
Geno Smith.
I love it. I love that. And it's kind of true. Like, if you look at the history, I do think part of bringing him in was a little bit about keeping Garrett Wilson happy. We got to get someone that can get him the ball.
Stability.
We need to see what we have in tight end Mason Taylor, our second-round pick last year. We're keeping Breece Hall. We need to see what an offense looks like with a functional quarterback. Is it going to be Geno in 2027? Probably not, but he's 36. Maybe he earns a decent high-end backup contract from the Jets moving forward, with the idea in mind that, hey, I know you guys are taking a franchise quarterback, but do you really want him starting right away? I do think there is a long-term outlook for Geno in New York or somewhere if he balls out this year. It's kind of a win-win for both teams because he didn't cost much. I think they're paying like $3 million for him. So to your point about the Jets playmakers, I actually love this for Breece Hall. I don't think anyone's interested in Breece Hall because of his frustrations in New York. I like it for Garrett Wilson. He's caught passes, I think, now from like 12 different quarterbacks. Geno will be, I think.
Isn't that insane?
It's insane. I think he'll be 13. So hopefully, there's some luck there. But I think when you go into a fantasy draft, some people go in saying, I don't want any Miami Dolphins. I don't want any Cleveland Browns. I don't want, think of all, you've been playing throughout the years. Think of all those teams that you're like, I don't want anything to do with them. Kind of think the Jets are that for a lot of people this year, but don't overlook them too much, especially from fantasy football perspectives.
I'm going to make a bold take because I like where your mind is going with this. Like, I feel like everybody's going to look at Jets players, which pushes their ADP down, but I look at them as what the Saints were last year, right? Like, sure. I took a shot on Tyler Shuck. I took a shot on Chris Olave, and you see the season he just had, right? So, again, Chris Olave, to me personally, Colin, I don't know if you've done your rankings yet, but I think he could be a top 5 wide receiver again this season. Like,
he's definitely in my top 10.
I think, honestly, meeting him in New Orleans, chopping up with him and talking about that wide receiver room, talking about Tyler Shuck, and even he had great things to say about Spencer Rattler as well. It's just that, one, Tyler Shuck is taller. 2, he makes a little bit quicker and better decision-making, and the chemistry with them are going to build into the years where I think this second year from Tyler Shuck, this is going to put this team on the map. Like, I really think that they were one of the more scrappier teams last year because if you watch some of these games, that 49ers game that I really was watching the other day, watching film, and I'm like, this team has some fight in them. Like, they could make a step forward with the right pieces, and now that they got Travis Etienne, this brings some stability to the run game because, man, Devin Neal, Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, Audrey Estime, they all got banged up or just didn't perform at a high level. So now bringing in a workhorse, you're able to establish the run. And, folks, Tyler Shuck he got some semi-mobility to him as well. So watch out, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people laughed at that pick last year because I think he turned 26 on the Sunday of week 4, and you go,
this dude's old.
He's a grown ass man. Like, it's just
he got 2 kids and 4 baby mamas.
Right. But Tyler Shuck, sneaky rushing upside. Maybe there's a Shuck Olave stack possibility out there that isn't going to cost you much at all. But back to Travis Etienne, I was looking at the Saints. I think we talked about this on the last episode here. The Saints were one of 6 teams last year that did not average 100 or more rushing yards per game. And that was with a mobile quarterback like Tyler Shuck. So now you have a better run game coming into New Orleans. I just think that's better for quite literally everybody on that offense. Who knows what other pass catchers they're going to add? They have Juwan Johnson, but they traded a fourth for Devon Vele. They don't really have a wide receiver 2 per se. Maybe Travis Etienne or HN. Apologies to him.
It's going to take some time, bro.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take time. I've always used to type in the all caps ETN when I
exactly
when I'm trying to get into character limits online talking about him. But yeah, another team like you said, Jets, Saints. These are sneaky teams that people overlook, but there's fantasy firepower out there. You just gotta be willing to invest in it at cost.
Like, dude, looking at somebody like Juwan Johnson, like with these tight ends, like super productive. Like, I don't know why some folks were like overlooking him in drafts, because we've seen the flashes. And me having the privilege to even meet Jameis Winston and having the conversation with him about Juwan Johnson, his exact words was like, he's basically a big body wide receiver. And he is a matchup nightmare. And we saw all that last season, him developing into this tight end 1, getting the bag and establishing himself as an actual weapon to this offense. I'm really excited what they do in the draft, honestly, because if they find a 2, I like Devon Vele. He's serviceable. I mean, look, in Denver, it was a crowded room, but he made flashes with Bo in some of those games where you're like, okay, this guy could play the outside. He could play the slot. So watch out for the Saints, man. I honestly think they didn't need to make too many moves in free agency. I think Travis Achan, almost said ETN, trying to do it slow. Almost said it. Yeah, I almost said it. But Achan was probably one of the bigger blockbuster moves that I think puts this team on the map. Colin, I mean, look, let's take it somewhere else. Let's take it to Pittsburgh. Now, there's a lot of discussion online between 2 positions with the Steelers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got Michael Pittman, and then you have DK Metcalf, right? You got Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle. Like, what does this Steelers offense look like to you? Because to me, I'm like confused of how to attack draft boards, this summer, taking these pieces off the board.
Yeah, to kind of bring it full circle into our conversation so far, those teams that you think of just right away and you're like, oh man, they're bad. I don't want any players from the bad teams. I don't know how good Pittsburgh's going to be, first of all. It's crazy that you and I have gone to Pittsburgh in this conversation before Aaron Rodgers has re-signed. It's been a week. What is he doing? What is he doing?
He's chilling in the darkness.
I mean, he said, when I retire, you'll never see me again. We're not seeing you now. So what is the difference? We're not surprised. But when it comes to those players, it all comes back to the quarterback. Who is running this offense? Because last year, Aaron Rodgers' checkdown rate was high. Why do you think Kenneth Gainwell succeeded so much in the passing game? I kind of think Jalen Warren maybe takes over that role. So if you want, the PPR upside, I really like Jalen Warren in that regard. I kind of think they're going to lean more on Rico Dowdle first and second down. We've seen him have success, less than 1,000 total career touches. I talked about that last time. I think he has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons now for both the Cowboys and the Panthers. I mean, he was great in Carolina last year and kind of took the job from Chuba Hubbard. Who's to say he can't do it again, from a team that invested a 3rd-round pick in Caleb Johnson last year. So don't overlook the Rico Dowdle signing. I actually really like it. Again, these are guys that are not going to cost much in drafts either.
No.
Some people
so far down. Colin.
Some people maybe picked up Rico Dowdle off the waiver wire last year and were like, he's my guy. I'm going to make sure I get him this year. But he is on his 3rd team in 3 years. So maybe some people are a little bit down on him. But to the wide receivers, I was a little bit lower on DK Metcalf to begin with. We know he's got big playability. Feels a little bit more boom bust than I think we all maybe expected him to be after his early years in Seattle. Michael Pittman, though, possession receiver. I think he's going to be able to do a little bit more there. If you told me today that DK Metcalf is going a round or so before Michael Pittman, I'm taking Michael Pittman probably 10 out of 10 times. But again, comes back to the quarterback. You can see it on the timeline down there, the ticker down there. There's some available quarterbacks. I don't think we're going to see Joe Flacco in Pittsburgh. That would be amazing, though, for him to complete the set of all the AFC North teams. Russell Wilson is probably not welcome there. Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not sure. So, there's some leverage for Aaron Rodgers, but does he want to play? Is he going to play? I mean, listen, I know how I feel at 34. I can't imagine how he feels playing a contact sport at 42 years old. So, I don't know what their other options are, but you hope you hear news before the draft at this point.
Absolutely, because like that's the biggest question: who's throwing the ball? And I think as Aaron Rodgers, continues on building this journey of a legacy, I guess I just don't feel good about it. Like it's like, dude, clock out.
High floor, really low ceiling overall.
Yeah, and when we look at that backfield, because I think that's the bigger highlight of the conversation. Like Jaylen Warren is still going to be very serviceable on a week-to-week basis, right? Because he's going to be involved in the passing game. We saw how good he was last season, right? And I think that dynamic of that backfield is going to be a 1-2 punch. And we got to remember, Mike McCarthy's calling the plays. And Mike McCarthy didn't want Rico Dowdle to leave Dallas to begin with. So it's one of those things.
There's a connection there for sure.
And he's going to lean on Rico. He believes in Rico. And best believe, listen, he got some smoke for the Panthers. I don't know if you saw the timeline. Rico was tweeting the other day. I mean, he's feeling a little angry. He got a little chip on his shoulder. So he's going to definitely be a running back that I think will fall. And then you're going to look at your running backs like, you know what? I could rock with Rico. There, let me get him some depth. And then you're probably going to end up starting him week to week. But, man, moving to another team, there's a lot of commotion with this backfield, Colin. The Commanders. Now, there was posturing. There was some rumors that, hey, they may be on Jeremiah Love. But being that they've signed a lot of these running backs, being that, we saw Chris Rodriguez leave and go to Duval, which will hit on that backfield as well. How are you feeling about approaching JCM, a.k.a. Bill Cross-Team Merritt?
I'm actually a Rachaad White fan. I'm not like rah-rah, banners around my house. He's the best running back in the world. But I did see him, and I did have him on a couple fantasy teams a couple years ago when he had over 300 total touches. And a lot of those were the receptions. He gets tackled really easily, but even that has improved over time. So I really like Rachaad White. But when I saw 1 year, $2 million, I'm like, man, I like him a little bit more than the Commanders like him, obviously, or something there. But getting to play with Jaden Daniels is cool. Maybe they don't want Jaden Daniels running as much. This backfield's a really confusing committee to me. I don't think. I mean, there's a couple backfields. What's that?
Hold on, Colin. The Panthers are trading Andy Dalton to the Eagles. React.
Dude, come on. Hold on. I gotta show you something real quick. I'm gonna move the camera. I gotta show you this real quick. This is
oh my god,
given to me a couple years ago. I actually own a Cowboys jersey.
Oh, let's go. He tossed it.
All my jersey closets. I can't believe that just happened.
The Philly, let's go. Listen. I don't know why you guys are trading.
We are the quarterback factory.
But you guys don't do anything with them. Like, what's the point?
I'm speechless. I know the group chat's about to blow up because I listen, a couple years ago I said Andy Dalton was like a top 20 quarterback. This was like 2018, 2017. Like, you can win with an Andy Dalton. I really hope the Eagles don't get to a point where they have to win with Andy Dalton, but they clearly value the backup quarterback position. Nick Foles, Kenny Pickett, we've seen it, right? Tanner
McKee, who is your offensive coordinator, former Ram backup quarterback.
Right. Tanner McKee is there. A lot of people value him really highly. I wonder if he's going to be on the move now because I can't imagine Andy Dalton is just QB3.
It might secretly be another QB coach in-house to kind of get these young guys, maybe, whisper in Jalen's ear. Like, I look at these things where it's like there's a reason and a plan why they make these moves, right? Like, again, I don't – listen, I ain't trading for Andy Dalton. I may sign him, but I'm not giving up assets to acquire Andy Dalton. I mean, I think it's pretty funny, though, because, like, your reaction was just so, like, genuine and, like, what? Like, why?
I honestly, I was about ready to slam my laptop shut. I thought you were telling me something about AJ Brown. I would have actually had to, like, leave my house
I should have served it up like that. That was a missed opportunity. Colin, my bad.
I'm glad you said Andy Dalton is being traded, not the Eagles are trading. Oh man.
Yeah. I should have been like, the Eagles are trading AJ Brown to the Panthers. Nah.
I was having a conversation today, with some people about just like, it's crazy how these teams don't value the backup quarterback position. Like we saw Joe Burrow go down last year, and then when they went in full panic mode with Jake Browning. Thank God they got Joe Flacco. He kept our shares with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins alive for a little bit, but I don't mind when teams make aggressive moves. I can't imagine Andy Dalton costs much, probably a 6th or 7th, what have you. Howie Roseman has a ton of picks for this year. I think 11 or 12 of them. 12 people from this class are not making the Eagles roster. So I can only imagine we probably gave the Panthers a day 3 pick, probably a 6th round pick for Andy Dalton. But that does make me wonder, is Tanner McKee heading somewhere else?
You're exactly right. They're exchanging 2027 7th round picks. So it's nothing crazy. But again, I'm not trading for Andy Dalton. But when I saw that rumor a month ago, like teams are interested in Andy Dalton, I'm like, what is that going to do for Bryce Young? Because again, right, we've seen the roller coaster. Let's pivot to Carolina. We've seen the roller coaster with Bryce Young, right? We've seen the ups and downs, and we've seen him get benched, come back, be productive. And a lot of that had to deal with Adam Thielen in-house, but no longer Thielen. We saw the roller coaster go down, come up, go down. Andy Dalton's in his ear. Andy Dalton, to me, was like his QB coach because he spoke about bringing and breathing confidence in him and getting Bryce to kind of get grounded and get on track and be the player that, we all believe that he can be. And now you're removing another piece to that puzzle. And I think when we start looking at draft boards and looking at a Tetairoa McMillan, right? I don't know how you feel about it. I know how I feel about it, but it feels like a risky pick, and especially where he's going to go in drafts. Like, I think Tetairoa McMillan's in that elite 3rd round of where he might exist. And that's where, the lot of decisions you're making your wide receiver 2 in hell. You might be waiting for your wide receiver 1 at that point.
Yeah, when I think about investing a top pick into a wide receiver, it's not, trust me, it is not, I'm looking at the QB2 just in case. But I do take into consideration if I'm stuck between 2 players, what if, right? What if Joe Burrow goes down? Do I really want to take T. Higgins here, or with Jake Browning as the backup there? What if trying to think, Jalen Hurts goes down? Do I really want to take Devontae Smith with Tanner McKee back there? It's like an end-all, be-all tiebreaker. If Bryce Young goes down this year, his backup is Kenny Pickett, which is hilarious that we were just talking about him.
Big jersey.
Yeah. So, Tet McMillan, a lot of stuff flashed last year. I just don't know what the ceiling is with these quarterbacks in Carolina. I do think they're going to add another playmaker. I can't imagine they're going to go into the season, with the wide receivers they have. Although Jalen Coker, multiple rounds later could be the value pick there. And I look at that too. Like, do I really want to spend a 3rd round pick on McMillan, or am I going to take Jalen Coker in the 10th, 11th, 12th round, or wherever he's going? I have no idea right now. But those are the kind of things I look like, or looking at, how many targets are these guys going to get? Because if, McMillan's getting 130 plus targets, that's all well and good. But what if Jalen Coker gets 100? He could be my wide receiver 3. So I like to look at that kind of stuff.
Listen, this is how I know Colin knows ball. He brought up Jalen Coker. This is a name that doesn't hit your timeline every day. The fantasy streets are never talking about Jalen Coker. To me, Colin, Jalen Coker ripped apart my Rams secondary. And here's the thing, that week of that game, I was like, look, don't sleep on the Panthers. Jalen Coker. Yeah. I have receipts. I have tweets in the offseason talking about Jalen Coker when he comes back from injury. He's in the chamber, like with the Goku meme. Like he's ready to come out and ball. And that's exactly what he is. He reminds me a little bit of a T. Higgins light. There is so much potential in Jalen Coker. You hit the nail on the head. Late in drafts, if I want a piece of this offense and I don't want to pay the premium price for Tetairoa McMillan, I'm going to go with Jalen Coker just with the opportunity that he probably goes undrafted because folks are not looking at him as a actual fantasy asset. But go back to that Rams game. Go back to the regular season Rams game. Go back to the playoff game. Like, there's opportunities there for him to really blossom into that wide receiver 2. And like you said, Colin, wide receiver 3, 4, 5 price, or where he just goes undrafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do still think they're going to add another playmaker. I'm just thinking of like the tight end position. That was an Isaiah Likely spot. I thought, he went to Coastal Carolina.
Sweet.
Yeah, maybe he goes back there. I'm kind of thinking maybe they go after a top tight end. I don't think they're going to get Kenyon Sadiq in the first round, but maybe Stowers in the second round.
Stowers, yeah.
There could be some playmakers still, to be added to this Panthers team. But I was actually looking at their backfield today. They just signed A.J. Dillon, who barely saw the field for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. So now they have Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, which I don't know if you want to talk about him.
Question mark.
He's healthy. Trevor Achane and A.J. Dillon. So
Trevor. Yeah. I do feel like that backfield is less threatening of what it was with Rico.
Oh, yeah.
I think Chuba, to me, for fantasy, it's like, we've seen him lose his job, get it back, get paid. And then the Jonathan Brooks thing, to me, I feel like they still want to give him a shot to hold on to that RB2 role. But we got to see the talent, because we got to remember in his draft class, he was one of the top running back prospects, but injury after injury. And then now we're at this weird space with him, is like, can he play and perform at that high level again? So it's like, I'll monitor it. Like, folks, the most underrated tool in fantasy is the watch list, right? Just throw him on the watch list. Throw him over there. Don't touch him. Just let him exist over there until we see him blossom, because I do think maybe we'll be talking about a Jonathan Brooks on the back end of the season, right? Maybe later on, but draft season, it doesn't feel like I want to acquire him or even try to not say waste a draft pick, but essentially that's what it feels like to me, Colin.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like for a playoff team, there's another team I want to talk about in this regard in a second, but for a playoff team, this backfield just feels kind of incomplete, because if Chuba Hubbard does go down, by the way, all of his guaranteed money, the rest of it is this year. It was guaranteed last spring. He has no guaranteed money in 2027. Kind of the last year for Chuba Hubbard in Carolina, unless they decide to extend him again. But if he were to go down, which we saw him get banged up last year, you are relying on Jonathan Brooks, Trevor Achane, A.J. Dillon. I mean, that's a bad spot to be for a team that, was very successful last year, in the grand scheme of things. So I do wonder if there's another move to be made here. Letting Rico Dowdle walk. Maybe they thought there is someone else out there that can do what he did at a lower cost or better. Maybe they'll invest in the draft. But if they do nothing, maybe Jonathan Brooks does have the trust from Dave Canales and that Panthers staff. That is something to monitor for sure. And I don't think a lot of people are really doing it right now.
No, that's a good conversation to have right now. Where else should you want to pivot to? Where are we going?
Seattle, man. I don't know. I'm
Sea Chickens.
I'm looking at their team. Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP. I know I made a video for FTN that, he's going to be back. Hype parade, Super Bowl parade. I am shocked they let him walk. Not shocked, with the contract, but they have a ton of money to spend and they didn't bring him back. Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL in the divisional round. He's not going to be ready week 1. Probably not going to be ready week 2, 3, or 4. He'll probably start on the PUP list. So then you have Emmanuel Wilson joining the squad. You have George Halani, and you have Kenny McIntosh. For a team that is in a really good position to get back to the playoffs and perhaps run it back, these are an interesting, underwhelming group of running backs right now. And I don't really know what they're going to do. Everyone says, they're going to draft. They only have 4 draft picks. 32, 64, 96, and something later. I can't imagine them using one of their 4 draft picks on a running back. They have a ton of 2027 picks. Maybe they'll trade back into a round and get someone then. But again, I mean, if you're looking at teams in your draft, you're in a 12-team league and you're like, man, I need to attack a backfield. I want to get Seattle starting running back. Who are you taking? I don't know who it is. Is it George Halani?
That's the thing. That, like, the red flags, like, there's so many red flags with Seattle right now, right? They lost 4 core pieces to that team, right? 3 of them on defense. I'm looking at this like, this is not going to be the team that everybody loves, the flashiness. And even with JSN, I'm a little hesitant in that first round of how far he goes up. But everybody else, I'm like, guys, they went out and got Emmanuel Wilson. Like, that was a signing that I was just like, oh, they're in trouble. What does this offense look like now with Clint Kubiak in Vegas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brian Fleury, he's a first-time play caller. He's a guy that knows the tight end position. He spent time on both sides of the ball. He's really of a defensive guy in his first, thinking. But I expect this to still have that run identity, being that, they're going to have games where, they're going to be very run heavy versus, maybe they loosen up and get JSN, activated, and their $51 million Rashid Shaheed big playmaker. I just don't know if this offense looks the same as last year, right? There is going to be some type of regression. I like A.J. Barner, but am I going to draft A.J. Barner? I like Cooper Kupp, obviously, proud of him, but am I drafting Cooper Kupp? JSN, am I drafting him in the first 7 picks? Like, that's where the conversation really needs to start.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, recency bias is very real. And I think a lot of people, take the offseason in chunks, right? We're in free agency right now. The draft's next month. Tons of content we're producing on FTN is covering all of that, obviously. But we're covering it continuously because so much is changing. Just because the teams, haven't cut players, in general, the Denver Broncos haven't signed a single outside free agent. They traded for Jalen Waddle, but there's still moves to be made. Maybe, just maybe, theory of mine, fan fiction, call it what you want. Maybe there is a running back on a roster right now that ends up getting cut. That's the Seattle Seahawks are not waiting for, but, we're going to go grab him. A Tony Pollard, 29 years old, final year of his deal. If they draft Jeremiah Love, does Tony Pollard say, I'm out, I want to go somewhere else? Grant me my release. James Conner, also in the 30s. They just signed Tyler Algier, Trey Benson. They have Bam Knight there. These are the kind of guys. Alvin Kamara, another name, perhaps that they're waiting.
Oh, he's threatening to retire.
I think so too. Yeah, and you're not. Yeah, you're either retire or you become really important at your job going to Seattle. Yeah. So I can't imagine that either. But I do think there's other shoes yet to drop for some of these teams. Carolina backfield, Seattle backfield. I don't think we're quite done yet. Seeing some of these players that are going to be important for fantasy find their teams.
Let's talk about Tampa Bay's backfield, right? Bucky Irvin, Gainwell. We saw how involved and how much damage with limited opportunities Kenneth Gainwell can do. And Bucky was banged up last year. Key pieces off the O-line was banged up. Baker Mayfield himself was banged up. How are you approaching Bucky this year? Because last year his ADP was at RB9. That's pretty expensive, man. Like, I don't know where you're at or where the fantasy streets are at with Bucky Irvin, but how are we feeling about this backfield?
Yeah, I think, again, back to the recency bias. I think people, fell in love with Bucky Irving from what he did on his rookie season. And then, they drafted him high. It happens every year. We see someone do something one year. We project them to do it again the next year. Or we just expect them to do what they did last year, the next year. You have to take it about what they're going to do, not what they did. And Bucky Irving obviously got banged up last year. Things happen. We get it. But when I was looking at this offseason, who are they going to add? Because they're going to lose Rachaad White. They didn't tender Sean Tucker, but then they brought him back. So that's not great.
They were like, hold up. Wait, you got to market.
Exactly. So, I was looking at, Zach Robinson, the new offensive coordinator, formerly the offensive coordinator of your Rams, or he had some role with the Rams, but he was the offensive coordinator with the Falcons. Are they going to be a Tyler Algier team? No. Okay. What have you? Well, then they bring in Kenneth Gainwell, who was one of 6 running backs last year to average over 5 targets a game. Pass catching weapon. I think that lowers Bucky's ceiling a little bit. I think the injuries from last year lower Bucky's ceiling as far as how you feel about, having him as your RB1 on a fantasy roster. I do think the teams that go wide receiver heavy in their drafts will probably turn to Bucky and say, you're my RB1. If you get a stud early, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving's there. Let's just call it the late second round, and you want to just lock up your RB2. I think Bucky's a fine pick, but this backfield does make me really nervous, just for how crowded it seemingly is right now. More crowded than some of the other ones we've talked about, because you got Bucky, you got Kenneth Gainwell, and you got Sean Tucker back there. So I'm just not sure what the ceiling is for him anymore.
I remember Gainwell on your Eagles
Mm-hmm.
And we were seeing him just deployed at random times, but every opportunity you guys gave him, he was good.
You look good.
We see him go to Pittsburgh. We see the opportunities that he gets. He was damn good, even better than expectations. That's my expectations this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield. I think we're going to see too much of Gainwell because I think, honestly, look at the money. It's not a big bag. You look at the opportunity he has to split with a Bucky Irvin because Bucky's rookie year, he was used efficiently, right? Less than 50% of the snaps. I think it was close to like 40, 45, whatever the case may be. He wasn't a full-time workload workhorse back, right? That, to me, seems like I can be in on Bucky if they're utilizing him like that because we've seen this 1-2 punch backfield work with Tampa, right? Rookie year, top 24 running backs between Bucky and Rachaad White. There is some fantasy value in this backfield to where I'm thinking about if I don't get Bucky or I'm not liking where his ADP is by the time June, July, August comes around, I might be drafting Kenneth Gainwell. I want to acquire that as a depth piece because if Bucky gets injured again and he misses time, Kenneth Gainwell becomes the RB1. Sean Tucker becomes, the RB2 that gets sprinkled in like we seen when Bucky actually got hurt. But Kenneth Gainwell can play. He can ball, folks.
Yeah, I think it goes back to our conversation with McMillan and Coker. Do I want to spend on McMillan, that high top 3 pick of mine, thinking he's going to be a centerpiece of my fantasy team? Or am I willing to wait multiple rounds later and get a guy that could be, significant from that offense? When it comes to Bucky and Kenneth Gainwell, to your point, do I really want Bucky Irving to be my RB1 or hope that he can be my RB2? Or can I just wait for Kenneth Gainwell, especially in a PPR league? I think a lot of people later on would be like, man, that was my sleeper. I think you're going to see a lot of that in some of these backfields that, I'm going to pay up for a stud. I want Jahmyr Gibbs. I want Bijan Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
I want all those guys, even Amari and Hampton. I want those guys that I know are going to get a full-time role. I'm not so sure about Bucky. So what do? Pivot to the guy behind him that could play alongside of him in a pass-catching role.
And chat, listen to the words, the key words. We're not telling you to fade Bucky Irvin because folks get that confused. We're not telling you to fade Bucky Irvin. Just watch the price. Watch where folks are taking him in ADPs. Do these mock drafts with your friends, your science teacher, whoever, right? Do it with whoever and understand that we're not saying fade Bucky Irvin. It's just that we have question marks. Let's pivot to Duval. Now, I think this is going to be a little bit more harder to really try to dissect of what Liam Cohen is thinking of this backfield because it was a nightmare in summertime when we were trying to figure out if it was Tank Bigsby, if it was Travis Achan, if it was rooting for Tootin season. And like now with Chris Rodriguez reconnecting with Liam Cohen, it's going to be very difficult with this price. I think they're going to be literally smack dab next to each other when it comes to their ADPs.
Yeah, and I know there's definitely rooting for Tootin Hive out there. I know a lot of people
it's
like
loud.
Tootin. Oh, it's absolutely loud. And I do think there was some of that last year with Tank Bigsby. I mean, I was thrilled when the Eagles traded for Tank Bigsby. I was like, oh my God, we just got a guy that we were debating is he Jaguars RB1 all summer.
Yeah.
And now he's, it hurt for fantasy, mind you, but he's now the backup to Saquon Barkley. Our backfield rocks. Well, it didn't, but I was pumped about it. But when you look at this trio, you go, man, I feel like we're back to square one. Do we trust Liam Cohen? What is he telling us with these moves? I mean, James Gladstone, the GM, and Liam Cohen, the head coach, didn't go to the combine. They're not scouting anybody. They know who they like. They're getting who they want. And Chris Rodriguez, to your point, played at the University of Kentucky the 1 year, one of 2 years, that Liam Cohen was there as the offensive coordinator, and he had success. I think he had over like 1,300 rushing yards.
1,300 yards.
Yep, 200 plus carries. I think he is their power back. Small sample size, though. Extremely unproven backfield down in Jacksonville. Again, a team that had the Bills on the ropes in the playoffs. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, if the Jaguars had success last year and they're trying to take the next step, Liam Cohen year 2, Trevor Lawrence got his bag. They invested all this capital into Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter. They're ready, right? Yeah. They're ready to go. But what are they doing with the backfield? What are they telling us? They let Travis Etienne walk. They're not going to give him the bag, right? So they feel comfortable with the guys they got. But when it comes to replacing him, they gave Chris Rodriguez $8 million. I think 6 of it's guaranteed or so. So that should tell you all you need to know. Rachaad White was in the Buccaneers backfield when Liam Cohen was there. He got $2 million from the Commanders. So the Jaguars said, hey, we're willing to pay up for Chris Rodriguez and take him from the Commanders. You guys can have Rachaad White. That kind of stuff means something to me. So when it comes to looking at these guys, who do I want? I would love Bashal Tutin. But if someone's going to take him around earlier because he's their sleeper target, I want to get on, I want to get ahead of the game here and grab him before anyone else does. I'm going to let him go. Good for you. You got Bashal Tutin. I'll say Chris Rodriguez. I have no problem with that.
So here's the thing about this backfield. Like I saw a lot of tweets in the fantasy streets going that no, Tutin's the RB1. And I don't really agree with that. Like I agree that Liam Cohen has a vision for this backfield. Who said it was completed, right? Like he didn't draft Travis Etienne. Like he didn't handpick him. He inherited him. I feel like Tutin, to me, he becomes the touchdown guy. Like when they get in striking distance, right? When they get in striking distance, that's where we'll see Tutin. This to me sounds like a best ball draft type of thing. This seems to me like you're going to have to put him in your flex and hope that he falls forward into the end zone. I think Chris Rodriguez takes on that Travis Etienne role where he will be the workhorse, because the flashes that we saw from Tutin last season were on the back end of the season where you started to see him gain ground. But he's the big playmaker. He's the explosive back. Those type of backs, like I can compare it to an RJ Harvey. He's going to be used and deployed when needed. It's not going to be something that you can put in your starting lineup each and every single week saying, hey, this is my RB2. He's going to be getting X amount of carries. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that they saw they can lean on Chris Rodriguez with Liam Cohen having experience with him. I think we saw a little bit of that with the Commanders, with him taking some reps from JCM. So again, approach the draft knowing these things. Approach the draft saying, who do I really want to deal with the headache, right? How am I building my roster? I feel a little bit more comfortable starting a Chris Rodriguez as my RB2 if I need be, or my flex or whatever the case may be, over a Tutin. I know the talent's there, but it's all about the opportunity. How many touches is this guy going to have on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Jaguars picks. I love to look at that kind of stuff. Free agency, we're kind of getting at the back end of it. I know it's only been a week, but a lot of the notable names have signed, right? So now we turn our heads to the draft, see what kind of picks we got. Jaguars obviously gave up their first-round pick to get Travis Hunter. They still have 11 picks. 7 of them, though, are on day 3. They've got a bunch of 7ths, a couple 5ths. Their first pick isn't until 56th overall, and then they don't pick again until 81. So I don't know what their plan is, what the team needs are in general. I'm just trying to think. They probably want to attack defense, obviously, right? I can't imagine they're going to draft a running back, but if they do, I think that'll kind of change our outlook on this whole thing. I could maybe see them taking someone on day 3 just to add into the mix, maybe sign an undrafted free agent rookie. But I do think this backfield is generally set. Again, back to the top. They paid Chris Rodriguez Jr., paid him a pretty significant amount for a guy that really hasn't touched the ball much in his NFL career.
And it's safe to say that I think we can all agree this isn't the strongest running back class, but I wouldn't be surprised if Liam Cohen brings in another guy. Like he has somewhat of a Kyle Shanahan feel to him where, I'll draft another running back. I'll draft a running back every year just to be able to develop some of these guys that I feel as though that can eventually get opportunity. I mean, when Liam Cohen was with the Rams, he's the one who actually implemented this multiple running back style. We had Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, and Cam Akers all touching the ball, and essentially we saw him blossom, go to Tampa Bay, and have that vision work between a Rachaad White, a Bucky Irvin, and Sean Tucker. So I wouldn't be surprised if LaQuinton Allen, LQ, he capitalizes his Q in his name as well, we see him get involved with this backfield as well. So don't be surprised if you're going to be dealing with a multiple headache situation. Colin, we got a couple more minutes in here. And I want to pivot to some wide receivers. I'm looking at Romeo Doubs with the Patriots. Do you feel as though that the Patriots are done adding to that wide receiver room? Because I know your Eagles are connected with the trade talk. I mean, we probably won't see anything happen until after June 1st. But do you think that Romeo Doubs is the one there that they're done?
I am praying that the Patriots draft a wide receiver 31st overall and just end this nonsense.
It's nonsense, Colin. It's nonsense.
I'm trying to manifest that it is nonsense. Listen, I like looking at the cap. There's some great resources out there that, talk money.
Yes.
I love diving into that stuff. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but I do feel like I've done enough research that some things just make sense. Trading A.J. Brown before June 1st just never made sense to me. And I know some people said, wow, the Eagles asking price is huge. I don't think they were asking anything. But when you're asking about A.J. Brown, that is what they are telling you the price is. So if they were going to trade him before June 1st, it was going to cost them about $40 million in dead money. Not to mention, Jalen Hurts' weapons are going to be significantly worse. And people love to rip on Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. Why are we trying to take A.J. Brown away from him and give him to Drake May? If we're going to do that, it's going to cost. So will something happen? I'm starting to trend towards he could be gone. I am starting to trend that way. I don't think that happens until June. And I do wonder if it does, is there a handshake agreement somewhere within the league? Potential suitors for A.J. Brown are starting to diminish. Sounded like the Broncos were in. Well, they got Jalen Waddle. Sounds like your Rams were in, which please see your way out. We don't want A.J. Brown with the Los Angeles Rams. Sounds like they were shopping Devontae Adams. No one seemed to really care about that little rumor. Oh my God, they're trying to get rid of
that was
Devontae.
BS.
Exactly.
Soon as I saw it, I was like, stop. No, not happening. Because first of all, he had a signing bonus that was triggering that Sunday where that rumor was still floating around. Like, guys,
yep,
he just got paid. No, that's not happening.
Listen, if you're going to give us Devontae Adams in some sort of deal, we can talk, I guess. But I just think the only team realistically left that if they were going to make a move is the New England Patriots. But they are a team, back to your point, that just signed Romeo Doubs to a pretty significant deal, not wide receiver one deal, but Romeo Doubs doesn't deserve wide receiver one money just yet. We need to see what he can do. But the New England Patriots targeted their wide receivers the 21st most, or I guess, the 11th least among teams last year. So this is a huge upgrade for them, losing Stephon Diggs. But I'm absolutely monitoring what the New England Patriots do over the next month or so. Are they bringing in wide receivers for visits for the draft? Are they using the 31st pick on a wide receiver? If they draft a wide receiver, will that wide receiver be included in some sort of deal? I don't really know, but I think Romeo Doubs, if the dust settles and they add a rookie and what have you, I think Romeo Doubs is going to be a great pick for fantasy. I do think he's a good possession receiver. I do think, he's good in contested catch situations. I just think it's a massive upgrade over what Drake May was working with last year. Stephon Diggs barely cracked 1,000 yards at 30-some years old. I just think it's a good opportunity for Doubs. I don't think there's a ton of pass catchers, but if they do add A.J. Brown into the mix, I'm going to kind of be out on maybe both of them, depending on the cost, just because I don't see how Romeo Doubs is any better in New England than he was in Green Bay, now battling an A.J. Brown for targets.
Here's the thing, right? Stephon Diggs was the only wide receiver with over 50 catches in that room. Doubs, right? Like, he was the wide receiver one for the Packers. Like, he was the only wide receiver that wasn't coming off the field. But, like, we have yet to see him crack 800 yards. And to think about, like, he's kind of been in that 50, 60 range of catches, I don't know if they're done. Like, maybe they do draft a wide receiver, right? Maybe a Omar Cooper that falls down to there, or Denzel Boston, right? They need help. And if they're going to go after A.J. Brown, like we've been speculating, like, I think that's what's going to get them over the hump, and they come home with a Lombardi next year. Like, I hate to be on the Patriots bandwagon, but I think even with the tougher schedule, if you make a play for like an A.J. Brown, then it's like that's what needs to be done to be able to kill this whole narrative that last year's schedule was easy. But I like Drake May. I think Drake May, to me, he's in that conversation as a top 7, quarterback, especially now adding Romeo Doubs that we spoke about, that he can be a deep field threat, and he can also be a red zone merchant. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, the talent is there, but they need a little bit more, because we love Pop Douglas, right? We love Mac Hollins, Kayshon Boutte. We love these guys. Hunter Henry was under the radar good last season, man. Like, I mean, my God. I mean, we saw Austin Hooper catch a touchdown as well. So the tight end position is definitely, a strong point of this offense, but they definitely need to add another wide receiver, man. I just don't know who it would be, man.
Yeah, when you think about what the Seahawks did in the Super Bowl to them, I mean, the Seahawks defense was elite, right? And when you look at the Patriots offense and their playmakers, I mean, there's really no comparison. When the Seahawks look at who we're going to cover, it's pretty obvious who you're going to cover. Let's lock up Diggs. Let's eliminate the deep pass. Kayshon Boutte only caught 1 pass. There were a lot of other issues. The offensive line had its issues, what have you. The run game couldn't get going. We get it. But you bring in Romeo Doubs, who can separate, and then you bring in another weapon, whether it's A.J. Brown or, highly regarded rookie. These elite defenses now go, okay, wait, who are we covering? Because Romeo Doubs is cooking me. And, I've got another guy streaking downfield that I can't cover. So I do think it is one of their biggest weaknesses. It's just a matter of how are they going to address it this year? And so far they're starting to get there, especially with the Dobbs signing. I do think Romeo Doubs is going to be, the top pass catcher for the Patriots as it stands right now. And that's a good bet to have if you like Drake May.
Where do you see yourself taking him off the board? Because, like, I literally cannot picture right now where he goes. Like, I feel like he's in that 5th, 6th round range, because, like, to me, he's the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots as of today that we know of, right? We know the Patriots offense was amazing last year, but in consideration, where do you see yourself taking him off the board?
I mean, just a total gut check right now. I don't have rankings in front of me. I'm just trying to go through how many wide receivers I would rather over him. I can't imagine taking him within the top. I mean, by no means am I taking him in the top 20. I mean, maybe a back end wide receiver 2, like top 25, probably top 30. I'm going to start really considering that, because you figure you've got 32 teams. Some of those teams have 2 wide receivers I'd rather over him: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, what have you. But if he is going to be Drake May's top target, I'm going to be interested. I just don't know if I want him as my wide receiver 2. I think I'd rather take him as my wide receiver 3 with that wide receiver 2 upside. So I guess you're talking like 6th, 7th, 8th round or so.
Okay, let's play a game. Romeo Doubs or Michael Wilson?
Probably take Dobbs, I think.
Okay.
I think there's just too much change in Arizona, and Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew is just, I don't know.
Romeo Doubs, Alec Pierce.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
That's a temp check, because I know a lot of folks are looking at Alec Pierce as the wide receiver 1 right now.
Yeah, but I think if Alec Pierce is averaging 8 to 9 targets a game, that's a little bit of a wish cast, but yeah, I think it's possible. I think I would take Alec Pierce with that in mind, but who's to say Romeo Doubs can't do the same?
Exactly. And we at least have our question answered with Dobbs with the quarterback position as well, because Colin, I don't know if you know, but I'm going to let everybody know.
We talked enough about
Riley Leonard, folks. Riley Leonard, lock it in, man. Listen, I know for a fact that Daniel Jones will be their starter, right? But I think a 29-year-old guy coming off an Achilles injury that we've seen 2 quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins being the kiss of death. Riley Leonard can get the job done, Colin. I got to get you to believe. I got to make you a believer, Riley.
I'm going to spend most of my – I got to spend most of my belief time in Andy Dalton now. So
Riley Leonard or Andy Dalton? Yeah. What if you guys traded for Riley Leonard? Riley Leonard or Andy Dalton?
You know what? If there's an Andy Dalton, Riley Leonard, Eagles, Colts Super Bowl, I don't know who I'm picking.
Oh, that is a tough one. I'm going to make sure the fantasy streets know I am rooting for Riley Leonard. One more though, because it was good to try to really think of where we're going to be putting Romeo Doubs, because Romeo Doubs, Alec Pierce is good, right? I'm thinking, let's move him up. Jameson Williams or Romeo Doubs.
Yeah, I mean, that goes to a team again, like the double wide receivers. I think I'm going to take Romeo Doubs for the higher floor and potentially a high ceiling any given week, depending on who they're playing.
Roma Dunze or Romeo Doubs?
I'm not convinced Roma Dunze is the wide receiver 1 in Chicago.
Wow, that's a take. That's a conversation.
I really like Luther Burden, and I think the team showed us that they like Luther Burden last year. Roma Dunze was hurt. We know that. He had foot issues, but
yeah.
Luther Burden's yards per route run, go to FTNFantasy.com, go to the Stats Hub tool. That yards per route run's no joke.
Exactly. Some of the best stuff.
Almost
over
3
there
yards per route run.
Because when I looked at his versatility, I'm looking at wide. He had a higher yards per route run than Puka Nacua when lined out wide. That to me is like, whoa, I see why you traded DJ Moore. You want to get this guy on the field more often than not. And I think this is a good endpoint right now to say, folks, make sure you are tapped into the FTN Fantasy Show. Make sure you are tapped into the YouTube. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing. Give Colin a follow, man. Give me a follow, because honestly, we're going to keep the conversation going. The fantasy streets will be hearing our voice. We will keep you guys in the loop, because there's a lot of folks out here that has the mind switched off from fantasy, right? And then they wake up in June, July, August, like, hey, what happened? What's going on? Stay tapped into the FTN Fantasy channel, man, and please make sure you guys are liking, subscribing. Colin, this has been great, man. We got to run this back, man.
Yeah, there's plenty to talk about. I mean, it's only March 18th. We're only a week into free agency. You know, we've had the names going across the ticker at the bottom. There's still tons of names that could impact our favorite players. The draft is heating up. I'm going to say it right now. I've been on the Jeremiah Love to the Titans train. I'm not getting off that train. 4th overall pick. I'm excited about that. Can't wait.
Definitely, man. Listen, man, it's been a great time, man. But folks, we got to get up out of here. It's been an hour, but it flew by, man. It felt like we were just talking for like 20 minutes, but this is the type of vibes that we're bringing here on the FTN Fantasy Show, man. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and hopefully we see you again real soon.